do not copy me. This is not a tutorial. Hello, friends. Today we are going to work on Butterick R11507. The problem is I do not have the proper pattern size. I need a larger pattern than I actually have. So I'm going to trace the pattern that I do have onto this tracing paper, and then I'm going to try to extend the pattern out on these sides where there's natural extensions. I do want to say this is not a tutorial. I have no idea what I'm doing. I have zero experience with altering patterns. So this is more of a learning experience. I will tell you what I'm doing, but again, do not copy me. Do not copy me. This is not a tutorial. I like to use this ruler when I'm tracing lines, even in these curves. You'll see me do this crotch curve in a second and see what I mean about even in the curves. I'm following the largest pattern that I have because it's closest to what I need. I'm drawing the original pattern on before I tamper with adjusting it. In case my pattern shifts, I can realign it versus hoping that it's in the right place. Right, these are pleats, so we're gonna have to figure out how to move the pleats. I'm making this pattern for my daughter. I've been setting the back of the pattern for the sizes, so I have an idea what size she needs, maybe. I definitely picked the size that's bigger. My intention is to increase this pattern 3 sizes. That should give plenty of room. I think it'll actually be a little on the large side, but bigger is better than too small. So if I make it too big, I can bring it down. If I make it too small, well, I just wasted a bunch of fabric for no reason. Okay, so let's start with the crotch. The method that I'm going to use, and again, this is not a tutorial, is I'm just going to measure the distance between one size and the next, and then I'm going to make that my increase, but I'm going to do it times 3 because I'm going 3 sizes up. In this case, it's the crotch, and the crotch is going down, so we're going down 3. So this looks like it's 1/4 of an inch, so we're going to move down 3/4 of an inch. And then I'm going to use a similar logic going this way. I'm going to find the distance between one point and the other, and then I'm going to move this way times 3. I'm going to bring these out to meet each other. That's where they intersect. So right about here is where the increase starts. So we're going to draw a line right there so I have a reference. And then I'm going to take this line here that I just drew, and I'm going to try to connect it up here, just sort of trying to follow this curve. It's not precision. There we go. That's our new crotch line. And then I'm going to go down here and I'm going to do the same. I'm going to say, okay, find my distance and then multiply it by 3. And that's what I'm doing throughout the entire pattern. I'm going to find the distance between the largest size I have and the size before it, and then I'm just going to And then I'm just gonna multiply it by 3, and that's gonna be how I increase this. This area right here is the same. There's no increase here, so we're not gonna touch it. We will, however, adjust these pleats. Okay, so the pleat between one point and the other, between the largest size I have and the one step down, is about 1/4 of an inch. So we are going to, I'm sorry, it's about 1/2 an inch. So we are going to move our pleat that way, about 1.5 inches. Okay, those are where our new pleats will be. I'm going to draw this line across so that way I know where my meeting up point is. Let's see if we can just follow actually the line. We're going to just try to follow the slant. There's one. See, it's pretty even from this side to this side. All right, so that's going to be our new pleat. The increase here is about 1/2 an inch, so we're going to go 1.5 inches right there. And then we're just trying to make sure our line is straight. That's why we're going to give it a few little points to follow. This pocket is actually not straight, it's actually kind of curved. So we're going to go like this just to give it a little curve like that. Beautiful. Now this is not actually consistent all the way down. When we get to the bottom, the width is more narrow than it is up here. So we're gonna have to take measurements in a couple different places to make sure we get the correct angle of decrease. So right now this is 1/2 an inch. So we're gonna make it a 1.5 inch increase. Okay, this is a little over 1/4 of an inch. This one's not gonna be so easy because it has a curve. We're gonna do our best though to just mimic the curve. These are so tiny, my eyes can't focus. So what I'm looking at is where does the pattern sizes start to deviate from each other? And then this is my spot that I'm aiming towards. So we're just gonna wing it and see how we do. Because my eyes looking at those tiny tick marks, oh my, they do not like that. Beautiful. This is the front. This is the back panel of the pants. We are going to use the exact same method as we did in the front panel. The only difference will be this one has a dart instead of a pleat. So we're gonna have to figure that out. But I'm not gonna talk as much because it's literally gonna be the same thing where every increase area, I'm going to increase it by 3 of the last increase. Remember, this first go around, I'm just tracing. The humming sound in the background is my AC unit. That's why it comes and goes. I'm not sure how to get rid of that sound, but I apologize. This little flap here is if you are making the shorts. We are not making shorts, we are making pants. perfect. This is just under 1/2 inch increase between this dart and that dart. So I think I'm just gonna go over 1 inch, I think. Which goes against my normal ×3 that I've been doing the whole time. But I don't want it too extreme. All right, let's draw the line where these darts are so we know where we have to meet up. So I'm gonna say if I went over 1 inch up there, I'm gonna go over 1 inch down here. So this will be where my dart meets. How's that look? I think it looks all right. We're gonna do the same thing where we just upsize it ×3 for the whole thing. Since there's a curve right here, I'm gonna put them in smaller increments so that I have a guideline to follow better. All right, here it's already decreased. It's not a full 1/2 inch anymore. This is where it starts to curve. All right, I think that's plenty of room. Here I'm just transferring the dart lines onto the fabric of my back panel. I'll do the same to the pleat lines for the front panel. I did cut my fabric with the wrong sides facing out, so I'm only marking the inside of the garment or the wrong side of the fabric with chalk. I'm pinning the two panels together around the dart area because I intend to use mark stitching to transfer the dart to the other panel. Here are the front panels where I am repeating the same process. I trace the pleat and then pin around the area. So this is some basting thread. I'm just going to do some mark stitching. So that way the lines on this panel will match up perfectly to the lines on the other panel, hopefully. Through editing this video, I've learned that large rings on my right hand are a bad idea. The clacking noise that you hear is my ring hitting the desk, and in the future I will try to remember to remove them before filming. Hopefully I remember before filming. I am working on the wrong side of my fabric, so I'm not getting any of these chalk lines on the face of my pants. So I have flipped it over. This is the other panel, the one that was on the bottom before. And you can see the way the stitches came through, so I know exactly where my lines are. There we go. So here's the side we worked with initially, and then here's the side that we just added our lines to. I'll go ahead and trim up these strings, but that's how I transfer the lines. We're going to do the same mark stitching process on the dart. I am pinning the pleat lines together to sew the pleats, and then once I have sewn the pleats, I will do the same to the darts. I smooth the pleats down with my hands and then I tack it into place. I do this to both of my front panels before I move on to the darts on my back panels, and then I tack them into place. For the pockets, I went with 2 different fabrics because the reason for the 2 different colors on the pocket is that the edges of the pocket will be visible, but I think a pocket made entirely out of cotton twill would be uncomfortably thick and possibly visible through the leg of the pants.
So I made the body of the pocket out of a thinner, softer cotton fabric, and I just made sure the visible parts of the pocket were uniform with the rest of the pants.
This is one of the front panels. This is the right side, correct side. And then this is one of my pockets. So this is the short side of the pocket, not the part that represents the waistband, the other side. We're just going to pin it down. It might not be perfect because, as you know, I altered this side here. So what I'm going to do is just try my best to line up this corner. And I'm going to use my pocket as my guide because my pocket should be an exact replica of the pattern, where my pants obviously deviated a bit. Okay, and then we're just going to pin it down. It's a 5/8 inch seam allowance. Try to keep it 5/8 inch. We're just going to tack stitch it down. Like I said, everything in this first run is going to be tacked stitched down. One side down. All right, we got our second front panel. This is the front side of the fabric. We have our pocket. We have our pocket. This is the short side. And we're going to attach it like this. Again, we're going to line up this corner right here because that's the part I feel is the most accurate. Pretty bird. Pretty bird. So this is a pocket, which is exactly the pattern. No alterations to the pocket as far as the shape. My alterations to the pattern are a little low. So that's something that if I were to do this pattern again, I would need to bring it up right here. And if this is still accurate when I do my final product, I will adjust my pattern for future reference. Once you get the pocket sewn on, we're going to flip it. And then I'm just going to press it down with my hands. I don't want to use an iron at this point because if I have to change anything, I don't want to struggle with getting lines out of my item. So I'm just going to kind of hand press it, and we're going to pin it into place. I'm going to stitch down this front so that way it stays in place and doesn't shift around. All right, now we're going to repeat this process onto the other panel. This is the second panel, front panel, and we're going to just repeat the process of folding this, pressing it a little bit with our fingers, and then stitching it down. All right, there's the second one. Now what I'm going to do for both panels, I'm going to stitch it here, and then I'm going to try to get it flat up here and stitch it up here. So that way the pocket is secured in place. these areas that have multiple layers of this cotton twill are really thick, which makes me glad that I did not make the entire pocket out of the same fabric, because that would have been a really thick pocket. Both pockets are stitched in place on both sides. I also tacked the dart down on both back panels, just one tack. This is one front panel and then one back panel. Their face sides are together. My front and back panel right here don't line up nicely. However, this front piece is part of the pocket, and as I said before, the pocket is the original pattern. So when I stitch this down, I'm going to follow the curve of the pocket instead of the curve of the back panel. And I'm not going to force them to meet, just because that could cause the fabric to go a little wonky. I'm just going to stitch and follow the stitch line that's with the pocket, since that's where the original pattern is. And then at the end down here, it's not perfectly lined up either. Down in the leg, I'm making the stitches a little bit far from each other because I don't need them super secure for the try-on. I need them more secure at the top where the waist and the hips are, because that's where the pressure is going to be. So I'll make them a little bit tighter when I get up closer to the top. So up here, we're going to make our stitches a little bit closer here. You can see, I don't know if you can see from that distance, but here I made them about 1.25 inches distance. Here we're going to make them maybe 1/2 inch because we want it more secure. Now we're going to have to bring the crotch together, which the back panel is bigger than the front panel, so it's going to be a little more complicated. I feel like that seam lines up nicely right there. All right, this is the second side, and it has a zipper opening that is on the side. So I'm just going to measure about where, you know, we're going to stop stitching right here at the pocket. But I am going to pin this down just to secure it, so it doesn't move around on us. I'm not sure why, but my crotch is not lining up as nicely as it did on the other set of panels. I can kind of force it together, but then this isn't lining up, which one thing I was amazed about on my other panel was how nicely these were lining up. So I'm a little scared on how this is going to go. And I'm not very confident in my ability to fix any issues right in here. Yeah, it's not lining up nicely at all. And it's like 1/2 inch. Let's flip it over, see what happens. This side is not lining up as nicely as the other side did, and I'm not sure why. They were cut together. You saw me cut them together. But you can see here is like a 1/4 inch difference between these two panels, and then up at the tip of the crotch there's a 1/4 inch difference as well. And it was not a problem for the other panels, but here we are. We will work with it, we'll see what happens. All right, I'm going to attempt to tack down the zipper. I drew a very light chalk line along the excess back panel, so I know where the line is of where it would line up. So I'm spacing this about where I would expect the seam allowance to fall. And it's on a curve too, so it makes it extra fun to try to do this. I'm gonna go ahead and stitch this side down so I can get the pins out, and then we'll move on to trying to stitch it to the back side. I am not very good with zippers. I do not like having to do them. I am putting these stitches closer because it's in the hip area where there should be more pressure. Going to attempt to line this up the same on the other side.
I'm flipping one leg right side out and then putting it into the other leg, which is still wrong side out, because I'm lining up the seam of the crotch to sew the crotch together.
We are attempting to stitch the crotch together. two panels are off very slightly. I think that has to do with the crotch not being perfect. I'm not gonna lie, this fabric feels a lot like D fabric for me. I'm just going to fold over the top where my seam allowance would be. That way when she tries it on, we also know more accurately how high the waistband goes and if we need to take that down. And I'll just do a running stitch to secure this down. I accidentally put the zipper on the wrong side. I meant to put it on this side. So hopefully when I do the final product, I will fix that.
This video is getting a bit long, so I turned it into 2 parts. Here you can see the completed mock-up, but I do have adjustments to make, and I hope that you join me for the alterations and the final reveal. God bless and have a great day.